You may not be interested in the latest smartphone trends or the mobile industry, but you probably know that Apple hosts its biggest hardware presentations in September every year. We think that in September, Apple will show off the iPhone 17 generation, led by the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which is the most sophisticated model. The iPhone 17 Pro Max will get some important but little updates. For instance, the front and back cameras are becoming better, and the phone will run quicker owing to a new and better CPU, a bigger battery, and a design language that some people may not like. How does all of this stack up against the iPhone 15 Pro Max? According to most of the rumors, one of the most apparent modifications that might happen to the iPhone 17 Pro Max is a design alteration at the back that some people might not like. It seems like some phones are getting away of the big camera islands, but the iPhone 17 Pro Max is going the other way and adding a big camera strip that will go almost all the way across the phone and will surely look like Google's Pixel phones. We think the iPhone 17 Pro Max will be a little thicker at 8.75mm than the iPhone 15 Pro Max's 8.25mm frame. Other than that, the two phones will probably be pretty comparable in size and how they feel in your hand. We just hope the bigger camera island doesn't make the phone too top-heavy. The iPhone 17 Pro Max will basically be the same as the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and by extension, the iPhone 15 Pro Max. We will receive the same flat design language with a dynamic island notch up front, a programmable action button, a handy camera control button, and a USB-C connector at the bottom. While we anticipate the iPhone 17 Pro Max to sport a titanium frame, a set of speculations indicates that Apple could be studying the notion of reverting back to aluminum once again. The probable reasons why Apple may do so is to drive prices down and depend less and less on China, which is the world leader in titanium manufacturing. With the US-Chinese trade tensions at their most acute, one may discern the logic in such prospective move. Apple seldom updates too many things at once, and this is evident best in the screen portion. We anticipate the iPhone 17 Pro Max to keep the iPhone 16 Pro Max's 6.9-inch Liquid Retina XDR display with promotion that supports up to 120 Hz refresh rate. Apple may modify things a little with a somewhat smaller dynamic island notch up front, which would consume even less screen real estate. Moreover, Apple might get Samsung's M14 OLED panel for the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which would enhance both the efficiency of the screen and its peak brightness, which would max out at roughly 3000 nits of peak brightness, up from 2000 nits. Well, this one comes with a little smaller 6.7-inch Liquid Retina XDR OLED display with somewhat larger bezels and peak brightness of 2000 nits. Its dynamic island is very ordinary and equally as huge as the ones on the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It presumably will come as no surprise that the iPhone 17 Pro Max will be powered by the next mobile Apple processor in line, the Apple A19 Pro. We presume that this one will be once again constructed on TSMC 3nm manufacturing node, although other reports indicate it could possibly be based on a denser and more sophisticated 2nm manufacturing node. The basis for this conjecture is supposedly TSMC running ahead of schedule with its facility's preparation to usher in the more complex process. Still, whether it's 3nm or a 2nm processor, the A19 Pro will undoubtedly be an upgrade over the A17 Pro that clicks and ticks within the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The latter was the first 3nm chipset utilized on an iPhone, and actually the first 3nm processor on a mobile device. While we anticipate gains in performance and economy, they may not be that big between the previous and the forthcoming iPhone generations. That's primarily because the iPhone 15 Pro Max is still a highly powerful and able handset. The iPhone 17 Pro Max will contain 12 gigs of RAM for future-proofness sake, while the iPhone 15 Pro Max sported 8 gigs of RAM. The latter makes it compatible with Apple Intelligence, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max will be too. The challenge here is on the software side, since Apple's A Suite suffered quite a tumultuous introduction and is now in a raw, somewhat incomplete form. First, the major news: a full outfit makeover dubbed Liquid Glass. For the genuinely daring, there's a clear look option that renders everything translucent, with a design language that harks back to Windows Vista. Yep, this reference just disclosed that the author of this post now has lots of gray hair. Thankfully, many upgrades simplified the experience, excellent for the rest of us. The camera app is being simplified, concealing most features by default. Apple is rearranging the Photos app after it chose to transform it into absolute mayhem with the last iOS version. The most thrilling breakthroughs, however, are the ones that promise peace. A call screening tool will finally be used to counter telemarketers. Pixel users are giggling somewhere in the background, enjoying this function for years. Live Translate is also coming to calls, which might be amazing, or it may lead to me unintentionally misinterpreting a $50 bill for a $500 one. Naturally, there's a boatload of additional nuggets. Polls are coming to group chats, threatening to put genuine order on the lovely chaos of a dozen people attempting to agree on a bar. All in all, it's a list of totally fair modifications, to be honest. The 48 megapixels main and ultra-wide cameras will be joined by a new 48 megapixels 5x periscope camera. The latter will likely allow for lossless in-sensor cropping and more powerful hybrid zoom. We'd also see a new 24 megapixels FaceTime camera, which would finally improve the 12 megapixels FaceTime camera that has existed for years at the front of iPhones. The iPhone 15 Pro Max was the second iPhone to contain a 48 megapixels wide camera and a periscope, while the ultra-wide and the long zoom lens were 12 megapixels ones. This one did not have a camera control button, but we don't really believe it's a vital feature. Other reports here indicate that we could see 8K video recording on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, when most prior iPhones maxed out at 4K with 60 frames per second. Have in mind that this functionality could stay confined to the Pro variants. Apple's iPhones are on an improving trend when it comes to battery capacity and longevity. For example, this year's iPhone 16 Pro Max included a massive 4,685 mAh battery, the largest one ever placed on an iPhone. The iPhone 15 Pro Max, on the other hand, has a smaller 4,422 mAh battery. Rumors indicate we may see an even bigger one on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, perhaps in the region between 4,700 milliamps and 5,000 milliamps, and the implied increase in thickness undoubtedly lends truth to that. At the present, charging rates on the iPhone 17 Pro Max are not likely to earn an upgrade. 27-watt wired charging up to 40 watt in specific cases, and 25-watt MagSafe 2.0. In contrast, the iPhone 15 Pro Max supports significantly slower 25-watt wired and 15GB wireless MagSafe charging. A new feature on the future generation could be reverse wireless charging, which would undoubtedly enable you fill up your AirPods or Apple Watch in emergencies. Although early, we appear to know or at least be able to identify a big swath of the iPhone 17 Pro Max features. Here's how they will compare versus the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Although the iPhone 15 Pro Max will be 2 years old by the time the iPhone 17 Pro Max comes, we don't really feel like it will be severely outmoded. It's still a perfectly acceptable handset that doesn't truly lack any important capabilities that newer iPhones possess. Although it's not official yet, we honestly don't understand the idea that iPhone 15 Pro Max customers should feel obligated to switch to the newer model. On the other hand, if you're using an iPhone 15 Pro Max and feel that the experience is not as good as it was, then the iPhone 17 Pro Max will certainly offer decent changes to both performance and battery life, as well as perhaps get far better zoom picture quality. Apple is altering the naming pattern for its software, moving with the year after the product's release instead of a version number. That implies iOS 26, not iOS 19, will be the software running on the iPhone 17 Pro Max when the phone debuts in the autumn. Thanks to a worldwide developers conference preview, we know that an interface revamp called Liquid Glass by Apple is the major emphasis of iOS 26, with transparent menus and a glassy sheen distinguishing the new software. There are enhanced features anticipated for many current applications, however, along with the debut of a dedicated Games app. Apple Intelligence was a significant emphasis with iOS 18, and although iOS 26 doesn't give as strong a push into AI features, there are some noteworthy new capabilities. AI will screen your phone conversations in iOS 26, deliver on-the-fly translations in numerous applications, and enable the visual intelligence function to execute searches based on material on your iPhone screen. The huge Siri update isn't anticipated to come up until 2026, however. It's still early enough in the iPhone 17 Pro Max rumor cycle that there's a heck of a lot we still don't know about the phone. That said, what we've heard so far is really fascinating. Upping the resolution of the telephoto lens would seem like a benefit, yet the rumor about a shorter optical zoom has us concerned. The ability to more quickly remove batteries might prove to be important should you ever need to take advantage of it. I'm unclear about the prospective design modifications, and I'd be astonished if Apple dropped the recognized square-shaped camera configuration. However, I like the pixel design, and it would be fascinating to see how Apple can continue making its phones stand out, particularly with so many leakers stating that the new look will be occurring. Several months remain until the iPhone 17 series is slated to arrive, however, so things may change between now and then. We'll have to remain patient and see what future leaks and speculations have in store. So, that's all we know for now. We'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we have more information. Thanks for watching.